The book Decisive actually begins before a decision even exists. It's not about bold people, and it's definitely not about having perfect data. In this explainer of Decisive, we're going to expose a much stranger fact. Authors Chip Heath and Dan Heath reveal that the very first trap of any choice is the frame itself. It's like you're staring at two doors and calling that freedom. You call it careful, you call it mature, but honestly, the truth is, the choice has already shrunk way down before you even began to think.
Okay, let's dive right into this. You know the exact situation I'm talking about here. Your laptop is open, your coffee is ice cold, you're just toggling back and forth between two tabs. One tab shows the safer job, the other shows the riskier move, and you just keep refreshing both. You're sitting there believing with everything you have that if you just think a little harder, if you just gather a little more data, it's gonna save you. And it feels responsible, right? It feels adult, deeply strategic even. But what you're actually experiencing is the pain of a trap that you built for yourself.
So the absolutely crucial point here is defining the actual problem. In this book, authors Chip Heath and Dan Heath name this hidden enemy. And the enemy isn't uncertainty. It's not doubt or complexity or fear. The enemy is a cramped choice. It's what they call narrow framing. Narrow framing is basically reducing a live, wide-open field of possibilities into a tiny yes or no trap. You think you're struggling with a decision, but really, you're actually struggling against a cage where the frame itself has already excluded your best options.
And this brilliantly illustrates a false belief that so many of us hold. Your expert voice tells you, hey, I make bad choices because I lack information, so I should just keep analyzing. That's the illusion, right? Gathering facts. But here is a reality slap for you. You protect one favorite option, and then you basically hire facts to guard it. You compare salary, title, timing, and risk for the exact same two doors. Each new fact feels super useful, but each one simply keeps the frame completely intact. You aren't testing the choice, you're testifying for it. The habit looks like research, but the reality is pure self-defense.
Let's just sit with this dilemma for a second. Take the job now and call it courage. Or wait for perfect certainty and call it wisdom. So which one do you pick? Well, here's the harsh truth. Both options lose. They both lose. And not because one specific job is inherently wrong, but because the frame stayed entirely binary. You basically forced yourself into a mental corner. You chose between two doors when, honestly, you never had to limit yourself to just two in the first place.
Moving on to Section 1, the architecture of choice, breaking the binary trap. The right move actually starts one step earlier. You resolve the dilemma not by picking a door, but by widening the hallway. This is the first real rupture of your own self-sabotage. See, you're not indecisive. You're just overly loyal to the very first frame that popped into your head. A better decision doesn't feel like some sudden thunderbolt of inspiration. It feels more like a field survey. You walk the edges, you test the soil, and you build better architecture. To do exactly this, the authors introduce a brilliant framework called WRAP. It stands for Widen Options, Reality Test Assumptions, Attain Distance, and Prepare to be Wrong. This is the absolute core strategy of this book, and here's why it works. Each of these 4 steps dismantles a different villain of decision-making. Widening options destroys narrow framing. Reality testing attacks your confirmation bias. Attaining distance neutralizes that short-term emotion that's totally clouding your judgment today. And preparing to be wrong tackles overconfidence. It doesn't ask you to be a flawless machine, it just gives your flawed human mind a vastly better room to operate in. Think about biology for a moment. A membrane survives by regulating what enters, right? But it fails when pressure distorts it and it seals up completely. Or think of ancient history. A city gate protects life, but if the leaders seal it up against all news from the outside, the city slowly collapses from within. Well, your decision system works the exact same way. A sealed system, a narrow mind that refuses disconfirming facts or outside eyes, feels incredibly safe right up until the exact moment it starves.
So how do we actually put this into action? In this UpGoWise Masterclass Explainer, we call this concept disciplined friction. You don't want to just trust the clean, easy answer immediately. You want to deliberately add friction to rescue your range of choices. And you do this by asking what they call the vanishing options question. Ask yourself this: what would you do if both of your current paths completely disappeared tomorrow? Just poof, gone. Forcing your mind to answer that question shatters the binary trap and forces real imagination back into the room.
Let's jump into Section 2, Protect your future self. The second dilemma. We are moving into some heavier territory now. The need for certainty turns every life choice into a punishing courtroom. Self-sabotage rarely announces itself by saying, hey, I want to ruin this. Instead, it says, I'm being realistic. It says only this path makes sense. The voice sounds super mature, which is exactly why it's so dangerous. It forces you to perform certainty when you really should be protecting your future self.
And that leads us directly to the second losing choice you likely face. On one side, you double down on the current plan, and you call it discipline. On the exact opposite side, you burn it all to the ground and start over completely, and you call that honesty. But look closely at this. Both of these are really just ways to protect your pride. One keeps the old frame to save face, and the other burns the frame just for the drama of it all. Both of them are symptoms of the exact same misunderstanding.
The missing move here, the braver move honestly, is to set a tripwire. A tripwire isn't pessimism, not at all. It is a deep respect for future truth. Before you launch, before you hire, before you make the big move, you sit in a calm room and name the exact signal that will make you pause or pivot later on. That way, when the storm arrives and you desperately want to just explain away the bad data to save your pride, the tripwire pulls tight. It literally protects future truth from your present ego. This brings us to a place of quiet certainty. Think about this. If no evidence could possibly change your mind, you are not deciding, you are defending. This book doesn't worship instinct, but it doesn't sneer at it either. It just gives your instinct a much better workplace. You still get to feel, you still get to choose. You just stop mistaking that anxious pressure in your chest for actual proof.
That brings us to the 0-second decision. Widen, test, distance, prepare. Let's go back to where we started today. Remember that hallway? The 2 doors, the cold coffee, the tired cursor? You thought your only task was to pick a door, but the real task was to design the choice itself. Those 2 doors were never proof of your freedom. They were just proof of your missing architecture. Your self-sabotage was just loyalty to a frame that felt safe. Once you see that, you can build a far better ritual. Widen, test, distance, prepare. So what you should really take away from this is how to apply it in the real world. Choose the practice, not the performance. Access your growth map. I want you to use this book on just one live decision this week. Not 10, just one. Pick a choice with some real heat around it. Write down your current frame, then add one brand new option. Test one assumption and set one tripwire. That is exactly how you turn this explainer into an actual UpGoWise masterclass in your own life.
Look, if you remember absolutely nothing else from this explainer, remember this core statement. It's the absolute summary of everything we've built here today. Widen the door before you choose. Seriously, the quality of your choice is dictated entirely by the width of the frame you build around it. So, this is the decision. Make it right now. Name one choice you are actively protecting. Add one real alternative to it before tomorrow. Because if you don't break the frame today, what other doors are you locking yourself out of forever? If not now, not ever.